Hello, everyone, and welcome to the IrishSportsDaily.com post-game show. Notre Dame 51, Navy 14. Fun afternoon, Jamie. Fun afternoon in football. It went as well as Notre Dame probably could have drawn it up. The turnovers are obviously nice for them to, get Navy off the field. Sometimes you got to count on that sort of thing to get Navy off the field. But we kind of talked about it, right? When you play a team that's faster and stronger than Notre Dame, everything kind of speeds up for you. And Navy hasn't been turning the ball over. They turned it over today. Notre Dame was able to capitalize a huge victory. They looked great on offense pretty much all afternoon. Riley Leonard was cooking. Yeah, 13 to 21 passing. It felt like more. It felt like he was a lot more accurate than that. Only 178 yards throwing. Seemed like he got whatever he wanted, though. Obviously, he gashed him on the ground as well. They got a big touchdown run from Jeremiah Love. We're going to talk about all that on this show. We're talking about the defense, talked about how it went, and all things in between. So thank you, everyone, for tuning into our show right now. If you like what you hear, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell soon, whatever it is. We are going to go live. Links to the podcast are in the description below. And as always, Jamie, this show is brought to you by ESQ Clothing. With holiday season approaching fast, ESQ has you covered for all your parties and gifting. Founded by Notre Dame alum Ge Wang, you've seen ESQ on all your favorite Notre Dame players and coaches. With over a decade of making the best custom clothing available, ESQ will help you look and feel your best in 2024. From a perfect fitting suit or sport coat, shirt or bomber jacket, or the perfect tuxedo for wedding season, galas and holiday events, check out Ge's amazing work at esqclothing.com. Book an appointment to upgrade your wardrobe today. Mention ISD and get 10% off your entire purchase. Give yourself and your loved ones the gift of style. Got a couple super chats to get to. First of all, CFB Hertz, thank you very much for the super chat, $51.14. That is topical. That's good stuff. We love to see that, and we love you supporting the show, CFB Hertz, as you always do. So we really appreciate it. Ryan ATL says, how about all those fumble recoveries by the Notre Dame defense? Yeah, and it's been a nice change, right? Throughout the year, Notre Dame's had trouble recovering fumbles. Sometimes those are fluky things. Sometimes you see a regression to the mean. 5 fumble recoveries for Notre Dame in this one. So, and then they were able to capitalize on those as well. Listen, there's gonna be a certain amount of it was just Navy, right? That this is where it's coming and this is where it's going to go. People pick Navy to win this game, all right? And I don't want to minimize. You beat a team 51-14. They're ranked 24. Again, people can say whatever they want. At the end of the day, they picked Navy to win. When you win by 5 touchdowns in a game like this, that's notable. It's impressive, and people should see it as such, right? You can't do the it's Navy thing, okay? You can't do that. People picked them. Joel Klatt picked Notre Dame to lose this game, right? Big
20-17. I just
20-17. He said, right? So he didn't expect.
Seems pretty off.
He did not expect Notre Dame's offense to do this today, right? And so I think people need to recognize that. Jamie, just overall thoughts on what you saw from the Irish today throughout the afternoon.
First of all, Joel Easton, we can't.
We can't agree that. We're not doing that. We're not agreeing.
I mean, they've made some awful mistakes.
We're not doing that. We're not doing that today. They were ranked 24th. Notre Dame was picked to lose. We're not doing that. Navy is not awful. They're a ranked team. Please continue, Jay.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that, offensively, obviously, you get the start right away where you get the turnover right after you go down and score on the opening drive. You really can't ask for a better start, obviously, right, for what happened. And you look at it, obviously, there's things that impacted Navy in terms of Horvath with his, injured thumb. And that obviously had an impact on what was going on with him. But also, too, I think there is something to, they made these mistakes and there's the wind, there's all these other factors. I mean, Notre Dame was playing in the same conditions. And they didn't make those same type of mistakes. And there is something to hey, I got to get this pitch out faster.
Yeah.
And than I normally would. Or, hey, I'm feeling a little bit more heat on me than you normally would see. Like, you can't say they played bad schedule,
Yeah.
heading into this. They play bad teams, no doubt. But they dominated those teams. And they showed today too, like that offense is incredibly hard
Yes.
to prepare for.
Yeah.
Incredibly hard to prepare for. But if you really think about it, the biggest things that they had was Horvath had those two explosive runs,
Mm-hmm.
right? 60-yarder and the 47-yarder for the touchdown. But that was if you really kind of look at everything else that they did, they weren't successful running the ball with the dive like the whole game.
Right.
Horvath came in averaging, he was like, over 60% passer. He came in averaging 12.3 yards per attempt, 6.8 in this game. And they got a couple things going, but they also missed stuff too. Also, he hadn't thrown a pick until this. He thrown one pick.
Yeah.
Season. Threw a pick. Obviously, it was a great play by Leonard Moore. So there was a lot of obviously self-inflicted wounds by Navy, but some of that stuff was caused by Notre Dame and just this, the pressure of hey, all of a sudden we're behind. We have to do this. You're trying to play perfect, and it just was not. That's hard to do. That's hard to do when you're always kind of pressing in that way. And even when they came out and they scored at the beginning of the second half, the fact that drive took 6.5 minutes.
Yeah. 6.5 minutes.
Yeah. And was also aided by, there was obviously the one bust there by Notre Dame. That was partially happened because he dropped the
right. He's scrambling around and it's do I Jalen Sneed, what do I do? Do I go try to get
he
this
got kind of
ball
caught
or
in no man's
yeah,
land. Yeah.
Right.
And the 15-yard penalty. Yeah. And the 15-yard penalty, right? That was there. And yeah, you even see a beer mentioned the roughing on KVA was a bad call. And obviously that's a play that gave them, an opportunity on that drive after when it's a fumble that's going back to Notre Dame's way again.
Yeah.
Right. So, they had some bad stuff happen to them. They also, that Wagner holding call was horrendous. There's just a couple things like that you just look at and you're like, well, Notre Dame responded well after that kind of stuff, and Navy didn't. And they just red zone, I think, really, really stood out too, obviously.
Yes. that's where Notre Dame, and that's where it gets more difficult for you. When you can't hit the explosive on Notre Dame and they don't have to worry about that. It's just that's where the difference in talent that you're playing against, that you're going against, is obviously a huge part of it. Envy Irish asked, what was worse, the roughing or the holding? I'm going holding. The roughing, here's the thing. The roughing is I can see why you call it. When the quarterback jumps in the air, you have put yourself at risk at this point. He jumps in the air in order to try to get the ball away. It's not KVA's fault. It isn't. So I don't like that. The holding is a phantom. The kid slipped. He fell on the turf.
It wasn't even close.
Greg McElroy's oh, you can't grab his shirt. It's where is he grabbing his shirt? He's not grabbing his shirt at all. Didn't end up mattering. Notre Dame ended up scoring on the drive anyway. But it's just that stuff. It's just get out of here. It's unbecoming for this level of the sport. I thought the game was essentially lost at the end of the first half. I tweeted out, Notre Dame went up 28-7. And I tweeted out, I had visions of the 2014 game, Jamie. I'm going to take you back. I'm going to take people back. We've been talking about old Navy games all week. It's on the Twitter machine and everything. Notre Dame goes up 28-7. They went up 28-7 in 2014 again. Navy gets the ball, scores before halftime. then scores out of halftime. And so the lead goes from 3 scores to 1 score, and Notre Dame hasn't gotten the ball yet. And Navy had a chance to do that. They got the long run by Horvath on the first play of that drive. First of all, when Leonard Moore's tracking him down, I'm thinking to myself, this is such a huge tackle that he needs to make here. You got to get him on the ground because you have a chance, right? It's obviously not a good start to the drive at all, but you got to get him on the ground, and you can't let him score. He chases him down, gets him on the ground. Navy fails to score at all. They miss the field goal. Not only that, they left a minute 51 on the clock. Notre Dame goes down and gets a field goal of their own. Navy had the chance to cut the score to 14. They end up the deficit ends up growing at that point. I think the game was over. That was the difference in possessions, being able to keep Notre Dame off the field offensively. And then, like we kind of talked about it on Thursday when we were saying, should Notre Dame defer or whatever. Navy had the opportunity to get that halftime score, and they didn't get it. At that point, game was over. They weren't going to get enough possessions. I thought they were going to try to do an onside kick at 31-14 because it just felt like you can't just. They got to steal a possession. Yeah, you got to try to steal a possession somehow. You kick it deep to Notre Dame, and whatever plays later, they're in the end zone on a long pass. I felt like they had to steal a possession there. This is a small thing, but you're down 24 points and you kick it. You got to go for 2 at 31-13. You got to go for 2 to try to get 3 touchdowns and 3 2-point conversions. Instead, you keep it the 3 possession game, which didn't make any sense at all. So that's where we're going with that. Talk to me about what Notre Dame showed offensively in this game. I thought they were crisp. I thought Mike Denbrock had a good plan for them. I thought Leonard looked as good as he has. Scanning the field, I thought the 4th down conversion to Faison, where he patiently waited for him to cross the field and get into that opening, even threw it behind a little bit because he had someone in his way. If he leads them, that ball's going to get tipped before it even gets to Faison. That was a really good throw by him. I thought on that front, I'm interested to look at his 10 to 19 yard air yards in this game because I thought this was as good as he's thrown the ball, that intermediate kind of area of the field. Thought looked real good there. Like there was really good, ball placement and all those things from him. What did you see from Notre Dame, what they were doing to Navy to kind of keep them off balance?
Yeah, I think that early down stuff, throwing the ball was fantastic. And yeah, in particular, the intermediate stuff was so good. And Leonard was just so much more accurate with that. And also too, they called a lot of RPO stuff, and Leonard wanted to pull certain things, and then he'd see guys drop into whatever. So maybe, that would have been like a tougher throw, or it's not like a you're throwing against man coverage and it's like a really tight throw. And he kept on some of those when he just decided to I'm going to pull it. Well, no, I mean, I got a chance to run here, and just took that. Those plays were huge in the game. Leonard was fantastic in this game. He was so good. Think about this too. Navy wanted to, if you think back to 2022, when Navy got desperate, it was like they were getting smoked, right? They were getting smoked.
Yeah.
In that destroyed in the first half. And then basically Newberry's like, well, I'm basically sending the house on every play. And guess what? Notre Dame had no answers for it. They just totally fumbled it every single way possible. They couldn't do anything, right? And there were plenty of times in this game too where it was like, hey, guess what? I'm bringing the house. And he did it. And Notre Dame burned them when they were in cover 0. Obviously burned them the first big 3rd down of the game to Jaden Greathouse. Was a huge play. You saw how Notre Dame matches up with those guys. They don't have the DBs who can match up with Notre Dame's receivers. It's not Notre Dame has guys that are just winning, dominating one-on-ones every week, but they're better than Navy's guys. So you saw that happen. Yeah. And also too, they send the house on 3rd down, and Leonard, just avoiding like free blitzers and then turning that into like positive yards. And that's also the big difference between like when you're playing Navy, when you're playing like Louisville, because he might make a free blitzer miss against Louisville and, he scrambles, but he's getting 4 yards, Here, it's like he's just a better athlete than those other guys. So he can just go and create that. And like, I thought, unsurprisingly, they ran the ball like, well in the game, and you knew that they were going to.
Yeah.
And I thought if they wanted to, they could have just leaned on running the ball for the most of the game.
Yeah.
If they
40
really,
carries,
really
40 carries for 265 yards, 6.6 yards per carry, 4 rushing touchdowns. I mean, we'd said a 300-yard game was out there for them. They absolutely cut. I mean, they stopped. I mean, they kept running the ball in the fourth quarter, but you take out your starters, obviously there was a lot more out there in the running game that they could have capitalized on.
Yeah. And I just thought that they did a really good job. Denbrock did a really good job of like not like keeping them kind of guessing with just kind of how he varied some things. I like some of the play action, stuff that they did that I thought looked good in this game. I thought that obviously Love is just so freaking good, man. He's so good. And he's just a guy like that is going to just overwhelm these guys. Cause there were a lot of times too, where they like were slanting, doing these kind of like extra things. He's getting hit in the backfield. He turns it into 6 yards, like he's just so freaking good. And, really like Notre Dame's offense they should have done this. This is what you should do against a Navy. And I thought it was like, one of their best performances of the season.
Yeah. 7.2 yards per play for Notre Dame. And obviously includes, I wish I was looking at the end of the third quarter too, because that's probably, it was probably more than that before they pulled everybody. David Stevens with a super chat. Thank you very much. I was in the stadium in 2007 when the streak was broken by Weiss and Brown. Couldn't figure it out. The current staff is terrific, and I don't feel like the other shoe is about to drop. That 2007 team was not great for Notre Dame. Just looking at some more stats. This is by the way, and speaking of, I don't feel like the shoe is about to drop. Marcus Freeman's going to have to show me, right? He's going to have to show me that there's not something lurking in the background. But I think it is notable. This is Marcus Freeman's longest winning streak at Notre Dame. He has won 5 straight games for the first time. The previous was 4.
6 straight.
What?
6 straight, isn't it?
He has 6 straight. No. They what are they? 6-1 now or 7-1?
7-1, I thought.
6 straight games then. 6 straight. Yeah. This is his longest win. I knew the next one was his longest winning streak at Notre Dame. So I think that's important, right? And he's talking in the the post game, talking about how he's hungry, right? They're not satisfied. He wants to continue, right? They want this to continue. They want to keep going, and I think that's very important for the team's mindset, right? This was a good, the 3 games coming out of the bye, right? I think it was important for Notre Dame to get those 3 games in. There was some really good growth there. They go back into the bye now, right? And so you kind of have that going on, and I feel like they are growing and they are getting a lot better. Speaking of getting better, Jamie, Billy Schrauth in at left guard, right? Matt talked about this a little bit on the board, or not on the board. He wrote an article on Tuesday talking about this might happen. And I was curious about, because look, my impression was, I don't know that you take Spindler out at this point, given I felt like he was playing well enough to where the experience of him vis-a-vis Pendleton was going to win out. And I didn't think Pendleton was playing poorly, but I didn't think that he was playing well enough to where it's like,
you can't take him out. Yeah.
You can't take him out. Yeah. You talked about this with Justin Fields, how he had said, like, I didn't give him enough reason to keep me in the lineup. I think that was kind of the case with Pendleton. You put in Schrauth there, And now you've got an offensive line that you feel like, okay, there's a physicality here that Notre Dame can get to. I feel like the offense really has a chance to keep getting better and better for Notre Dame. How much did you kind of hone in on Strouth? We didn't hear his name that much today, which is probably a good thing considering, you're on the offensive line and you're in the interior. What did you think of Strouth? What did you think of
I mean,
Strouth?
I always like whenever you're watching it on first watch, it's tough to get a good view
Yeah,
of like everything that's going on with up front. Like you're only seeing snippets here and there, and and also too because I'm doing the live blog too, like you kind
for
of aren't
sure.
seeing everything. But I mean, I thought he played well. I thought he got movement, obviously, in the run game. Um, certainly didn't look like hobbly, like he was hobbling around on a bad
Hmm.
ankle or anything like that.
Yeah,
So I think that's good. And the main thing is that Shrouth, there's I know he wasn't playing like lights out at the beginning of the season or anything, but there's a reason he was considered to be like, man, this guy's supposed to be Notre Dame's best offensive lineman this year. Like he was the guy. So it makes sense that he was going to be
yeah,
find his way back into the lineup. Um, and it's going to help. Like it's going to help. And obviously too, he's going to be a guy who starts next year. Like that is going to happen. Like he's going to be one of those guys too. So it only makes sense that like he is found his way somewhere. And whether they wanted to make a decision there um with Spindler or Pendleton. But I think you could say like Spindler's probably played a little bit better than Pendleton, and that's kind of what it was, right?
and you
So
have the experience factor as well.
definitely, right? So um I don't know. I just think that um it helps too that Shrouth, I think that's one of the things too that people don't even really account for when you have like those two young guys playing together side by side, which it just helps having a guy who's a little bit older, who's played a little bit more. Not that Trump has played that much more than Pendleton, but he has been around for longer.
Yeah,
So it that kind of helps, I think, Anthony Knapp a little bit as well. Listen, you're not going to get tested in this game like you are in a lot of other games. Florida State,
yeah.
the one thing I could say about them is that like I think their D tackles are pretty good. So that's
Okay.
going to be a battle there, but that's also too why you want to get Billy Schrauth in there and ready to go. And then and if he's healthy, he was obviously healthy enough to get these reps
Right.
before the bye week, and Notre Dame can rest up for that.
Yeah. Thank you for the super chat. Tommy McGinley says, seems that every week the refs seems against us. Is the only way to have a fair officiated game is to join a conference full time? No, the refs are bad. Period.
I think they're just bad. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just not good. I think that there's just kind of it's just kind of around college football. Every game I watch, there's some sort of like, what are you doing? Like, what is going on here? I don't know how to solve the problem other than like I bet you a lot of these guys aren't full time. They have other jobs, right? It's like that in the NFL. They're just not full time refs. Now, look, for the most part, like they're better than like you would see it like D2 or something like that, right? Like they're better than that, but there are just so many things where it's like, my goodness, like how do you got like the holding one again? I can see why a referee is trying to protect the quarterback on the one hit, right? I don't agree with it because he's jumping. I don't like the call. Okay, I don't. I can see it. The holding, it's like you can't call it. You just can't. It just can't not. It can never be a thing that happens in a football game. So that's where I come out on that. Thank you for the super chat though. Let's talk a little bit about the defense. Jalen Sneed. Listen, there's a thing going on with Jalen Sneed and Navy. He's started a couple of games against Navy now, and now he leads the team with 9 tackles. He shared a tackle for loss in the game. Jack Kaiser obviously had 9 tackles. I mean, maybe understandably, I thought Drake Bowen had a tough game. He didn't play like poor, like awful. I just think he had some tough moments. Same with KVA, like on the long Horvath run, like right before it was the 60-yarder where he got run down by Leonard Moore. I thought KVA just lost the ball. He lost where the ball was. And so he just completely ran out of the play. But here's the thing. right? Here's the thing about the defense, okay? First of all, we knew it would be difficult, right? This is a very difficult offense. Blake Horvath in the game, 14 carries, 129 yards. He had 107 yards on the 2 carries, 60 and 47. So he had 107 yards. He's got 22 yards in the other 12 carries. Like, that is going to work. You make Navy have to drive the ball, right? No one else averaged over 5 yards a carry, right? Their touchdown drives, like, aside from they only had 2, but they had the long one, but the other one took 6 minutes, like you said. Like, that was the way you had to beat this Navy team because they were so reliant on the big plays. They hit a couple explosives in the passing game. They hit 121-yarder and then the 32-yarder on the kind of broken play. Beyond that, they finished with 88 yards passing, 7 of 13. That's how you needed to beat them, right? You could not let them be explosive against you over and over again. They got burned a couple of times. Only one of them cost them points. I feel like we got to give the defense some grace, right? In terms of what they were up against. Because I'm telling you, I'm watching this and I'm like, some of this, it's like, oh, we're not getting off blocks or whatever. Or Notre Dame's not getting off block. And like, to some extent, that's true. They really put you in a bind. They really do.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I can't bang on the defense too much. They present a lot of problems for the defense and the formations and the motions and this,
the shifts and everything. It's incredible what they do. Honestly,
where are you at with that? Where are you at with just that whole thing?
I mean, I knew that they were going to, like, if you thought that Navy wasn't going to get something in this game, then you're crazy. Then you did not watch Navy. That's what I would say. Then you had no idea what Navy's offense was about. Like, it's an incredibly hard defense or offense to prepare for. They are way harder than they were. And I saw someone make a comment about Army later, and I mean, Army is playing, obviously really well, and like we talked about, they have a better defense, but they run a much more conventional offense.
Yeah,
which that will be so much easier to prepare for than this. And this is probably the hardest offense Notre Dame will have to prepare for a while. Like, you almost have to hope that Drew Kroenig, like their offensive coordinator, like somebody hires him to be a head coach, because this is going to be horrible to prepare for every year. Every year. They just do so much. I'm blown away by actually how much the volume of what they run. And it is kind of amazing that they didn't break more, to be honest. Like, if you think about it, and really, like you said, the 2 big runs, obviously you don't want to give up a 47-yard touchdown and a 60-yard run. You never want to do that. But like you said, look at the rest of what he did in the game. Look at what their fullbacks did in the game. Nothing. That wasn't like, they never broke one big play as a fullback. Heinrich had been awesome this year, especially as a receiver. He had an explosive reception in every single game. Guy was averaging, 21 yards per reception. He was up there in the country in total 20 yards plus receptions. Like, he had 12 in 6 games.
Yeah.
Like 7th in the country. That's how explosive they've been on offense. That's how explosive he's been. Guy had 2 catches in this game. Like, they did nothing. Like, he was a decent runner when they gave him the ball there, right? He had 11 for 51. But even that, he'd like broke a 57-yarder touchdown against rushing touchdown against Air Force. Like, what they did to kind of make him a non-factor in the game was huge. Mm-hmm. And it was always going to come down to whether or not they could get stops in the red zone, because it's like, hey, you might give up something, but can you get a stop when it matters? And they were going to score at least some of the time in the red zone. They've been automatic.
Yeah.
But you get 2 stops in the red zone where they get no points. Like, that's a pretty darn good job. Like, yeah, there's things you don't like about the game, and I would say too, like, yeah, some of the linebackers were lost in certain things, but like, that's gonna happen. Like, that's happened. Please go watch any of these other games and look how out of the play most of the defenses are
Yeah.
compared to Notre Dame's in this
Yeah,
game.
like
And
they give you problems. Like we did say this. We did. Like they are good. At some point, it doesn't matter how bad the competition is. When you are doing this over and over again, you're good, right? And so Notre Dame, it was a tough thing for them. You need this. You need them to turn it over. You need them to shoot themselves in the foot. But that is also the nature of their offense, right? And that's why you keep making them make plays, right? You keep making them snap the ball because something can happen, right? There's so much ball handling involved. Something can often happen. Adrian DeVore says, I'm not trying to be reactive, but it actually feels like Leonard Moore is playing better than Christian Gray right now. That's not a knock on Gray, just very impressive by Moore. I'm to the point now where I'm settling myself down on Leonard Gray. I don't want to go. I don't want to Leonard Moore. Excuse me. I'm settling myself down on Leonard Moore. Christian Gray gave up a couple slants in this game, which is.
You had the PI call too. I thought it was whatever. I think it was horrible, but
maybe he's got the hand on the back. You don't need to have it.
You see guys get away with it all the time.
For sure. My main point is like Leonard Moore, he's very impressive. I don't want to go overboard. I just want to see more. He's always doing the right thing, man. He's just always doing exactly what that he's supposed to do. And then he makes a play every now and then. And it's just like, I don't, it seems weird to me that it would be like, maybe he is like Ben Morrison as a freshman kind of thing. And I don't want to go in that direction. All I'll say is he's always where he's supposed to be and he's always doing the right thing. And I'm just not worried about the guy when he's out there. I don't have concerns. So where are you at?
I know. That's exactly how I feel. Like,
I don't want to go too crazy, but he looks good.
I also really good. As he was chasing down Horvath, I thought, oh my God, he's gonna punch the ball out again. Yeah, I thought that.
He tried too. He tried.
Yeah, I thought he would. And a lot of the guys go for that, punch or strip or whatever, and then they lose the guy and the guy scores.
Yeah,
right? But that didn't happen, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm obviously continually impressed. And I want to point out too, because like Navy, it's hard to get. They're first in the country in havoc against them, right? Like they just don't like. That's just what it is. It's very hard to get like if they're running a dive, you're not stuffing that for a loss. It's just not happening, right? And there's just so much more too that they do that unless guys are just making great plays on the perimeter, you're not going to rack up a lot of TFLs. You're also too like, you're not going to get too much in the passing game either, right? So it's hard to kind of get that. And obviously Notre Dame didn't have like a high havoc rate in this game, but when they got havoc, it was huge. It was huge. Like that's the difference in them scoring and not really, because they get the one play where Burnham knocks down. They read the screen. He knocks the ball down. All of a sudden, it goes from 2-8 to 3-8. It's like that's a bad down for Navy. Yeah. Like that's not a good favorable thing. They end up having punt. They end up having to punt. They're in the red zone. All of a sudden, they weren't helped out by the guy dropping it was a poor pitch on the first play, but then they get a TFL on the second play. Great play by Snead to kind of blow that up. Mm-hmm. And then after that too, they're throwing on third down. X Watts breaks it up. Then they force field goal. They miss the field goal. obviously on the more thing where they get the pick, but they got another TFL before that too. Like,
Yeah.
that's, if you can get those when they matter, that changes. It changes everything, right? So that kind of like red zone, like havoc is just huge. And unfortunately, like they're gonna play Army again too. It's not a team. Like, you're not gonna get a ton of havoc, but it just, you have to have enough
Yeah.
when it matters. And that, because they can't deal, those offenses just are not, when they're off schedule, they are not built to deal with that. And it doesn't even matter, because even if you do like a lot of fancy stuff, whatever, it's like every time you do that kind of stuff, it's a risk. And they don't
Right.
they don't want to, they want to do that stuff on first down,
Yeah.
or they want to do it in second and short or something. They don't want to do that when it's second and 14.
Yeah. I mean, even like a 1st and 10 run for 1 yard. I mean, that's against these teams, that's almost a havoc play, right? Because it just makes it that more difficult. Then it takes kind of going for the kind of 4 downs. It kind of takes it off the table a little bit. Second down play is very much more important for them. Joel Easton says the great house slow up on his catch going into the end zone. I don't think he slowed up. I mean, he got the shoestring, right, which is unfortunate for him. But like that's the deal, right? Let's see. Questions about Lambert coming in the game at left tackle from Esteban. Did Lambert come in? He came in at right tackle. I believe they've been playing him on the right side. Is that correct, Jamie? As I recall, they've been playing Gerby Lambert on the right side in these
They
games.
have, but I thought he did come in at left tackle in this game.
In this game, I thought I thought it was Baker. I thought Baker was out there.
I thought I saw Baker in at right tackle when he was in. So I don't know. I'll have to go back and look, because to be honest, I wasn't like watching the line super close
Got it. Yeah.
during that time. But I did notice it, because I was like, oh, it was like, oh, I think Lambert is in there. Yeah.
Interesting. We're monitoring.
Justin Ziegler, I will not take off this Steelers hat. Get out of here. I don't care. You're not a Steelers fan. Hey, get out of here. I'm not taking off the Steelers. Sorry, buddy. I don't mean to get at you, but don't tell me not to wear a Steelers hat.
Irish Mike says, any idea if Mitch Jeter will be back after the bye? Kicking game is kind of rough without him. I think he warmed up today, so I would expect him after the bye. I think he's going to be around, because again, I believe he warmed up for Notre Dame. I was surprised he actually didn't kick, but yeah, they need to. They need to do that. Rajon says he saw Baker at left tackle. So, look, we'll monitor. We'll monitor that. Another big game for Jeremiah Love, special player, special player. We've talked about it. Little people have been talking about it in the chat. Jordan Faison was activated today in terms of targets, right? They really like the matchup with him in the field. I love that the only previous time we've seen that kind of post corner, or like it's more like a post out on the play action pass. We've seen it with KK Smith a couple of times. It looked real good to him. Got him on some crossers. So that kind of changes things. Bo Collins, it was just poor coverage by Navy in the back corner. Got confused. He let him run right by, and the safety wasn't ready for him. But they got Great House on the long run, catch and run in the beginning. I believe that was a 3rd down play, so that was a very important play for Notre Dame. They got Mitchell Evans a couple of times. I think to this point, I would expect, let's look at Notre Dame stats here. Just 4 catches for Faison, and then 2, bunch of single catches for everyone else. I think that's how it's going to be going forward. I wouldn't expect a game from Mitchell Evans at this point, anything like 6 for 80. I don't know that that's coming, at least on a regular basis. I think that's just how it's going to be for Notre Dame. There's not going to be great numbers, but it's going to be efficient, right? 21 attempts, 178 yards for Riley Leonard. That's probably around 8 yards per attempt, something like that, 8.5 yards per attempt. That'd always be good. 164 passer rating. Is that passing game good enough, Jamie? Is it good enough for Notre Dame?
I would say in this game it was good enough.
Well, just generally. going forward, like that style of passing
That
game. I mean, because
style
it's
where they're
been
going to
this way
spread
all
it out.
year. Yeah.
I mean,
It's been this way all year.
I think it's good enough against the 4 teams left on the schedule. Yes,
For sure.
I do think it is like when they get into a playoff scenario, like yeah, it's going to be different, and you need that too. But like, yeah, we have been waiting all year for somebody to kind of emerge as like a kind of wide receiver one type.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're getting all of this from like in spreading out and all of these guys kind of doing this and like contributing and like really like, being efficient with it, I mean, you'll take it. Like, and I do think like one of the things too is, he's coming back from the injury, so that's part of it with Faison. But we talked about how great he was as a blocker last game, and Marcus Freeman talked about how he like graded out like so well and everything else. But it is one of those things when you do those things well, all of a sudden they're like, man, we got to get this guy the football. He deserves it, and you see that happen, right? And he really kind of like took advantage of it. Really, probably should have had that one that he didn't bring in. It was a low throw, but it was, I didn't think it was a bad throw. Like he probably should have had it. But outside of that, I mean, you could see like he looked good.
Joel Easton says it's what they've been. It's enough to win every game. Can they win the second game in the playoffs with it? Here's the thing. With Notre Dame's defense, I think they're going to kind of be in every game. I think when we see Notre Dame, if they're going to struggle in any kind of playoff game or in any game, really, it's going to be against better defenses with better corners and a better secondary on that, on that 3rd and 8 stuff, the 3rd and 9, right? Like this is where it's like that lack of a guy, that lack of a dude can hurt you, right? So if they're not moving the ball for whatever reason, it'll probably be because of that, right? And that's where they've struggled all year. Sometimes you want a big time guy to emerge. Someone like Jordan Faison in the middle of last year, where it's like, oh, Notre Dame's got some explosiveness with him, right? And maybe him coming off the injury, they're going to have a bye now, so maybe that ankle can heal up a little bit more, and kind of get him going, right? I think that could be something that propels Notre Dame's passing game a little bit. So we'll have to see there. But yeah, I just don't know that it's ever going to be that they're ever going to get that one guy who's kind of blowing up, which is, like you said, it's fine for what Notre Dame's got for the rest of the season. But we're just going to have to see what the ceiling is for Notre Dame in that kind of situation. Kedron Young, we should mention 10 carries for 52 yards. Look good. He looks like really a good running back, Jamie. I like him a lot. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. As a runner, I like him more than Aeneas Williams. And I think, which isn't anything to say about Aeneas Williams in a negative way. I just think as a runner, I think there's a lot there for Kedron Young. I think as a duo, I think that's going to look real good for Notre Dame going forward. They've got some good running backs there. So just looking at some more stats, 310 total yards for Navy, 466 for Notre Dame. I mean, you can kind of see how this game could have gone a different way without the turnovers, right? With Navy moving the ball. Obviously you don't know how Notre Dame's going to react offensively to that sort of thing. I mean, look, on the one hand, like the turnovers are a big deal for Navy, but at some point it is kind of baked in to the way you play. You're putting the ball at risk there, and you're getting things caught up. Dan Adams says, yeah, we're not in the playoffs this week. I'm just out here enjoying the W. Absolutely. It's enjoy it. Like I had a lot of fun watching this game, just in terms of seeing really good football kind of across the board. Mitch of a high look screen game, no bueno. Let me ask you something about this. As I was watching it, I felt like they're getting a little bit tendency heavy when you motion out the back out of the backfield and you get to the empty set or your empty backs. I feel like some kind of screens coming here, right? And I feel like that's got to be alert for the defense. I wonder if you feel the same way. Notre Dame did run a quarterback draw out of it with Riley Leonard, so that was a good change up there. But do you feel like that's getting a little bit predictable for Notre Dame on those screens?
I feel like they're doing it on purpose to set something up. Like, I feel
Gotcha.
like that's like not even like, I feel like they're doing that to, that's like, they're either some kind of throwback, either some kind of, kind of like fake, kind of like block release thing where they're letting a guy down the field. Like, I think that's what they were doing. It was all just like a setup to do that. And I think they wanted to do one on the one where, one of those where Leonard ran. That was like they were trying to get Collins down the field there, but it's, I don't know, something happened there or whatever that
Right.
it didn't work. So I'll have to go back and rewatch that part. But like, um, yeah, I think that was like purposeful in how they were kind of like setting that up there.
The screen they set up to, I think it was going to go to Great House, that got knocked down by the defensive end. Can't remember when it was in the game, but I think everyone can remember it. Man, that was set up. That was, someone would have had to really mess up for that play not to be successful, because they had like two defenders who were kind of in play, and like four offensive linemen were just kind of in a row. I can't remember exactly when it was, but man, it was it was really well set up. So, sometimes those are hit and miss with the screens. Joe asked, excuse me. Joe asked, is JD Price okay? 5 carries for 19 yards is surprising to me. In my opinion, his carries get caught up in game flow a lot more than Jeremiah Love's do. I mean, it has to be a situation where it's like we are going to give him the ball, but like I think there are so many times when he's in the game, but it's like we're pulling it on RPO, or we're doing like game flow. I think affects him on just a general basis more than it does someone like Jeremiah Love. That's my thing. I don't know if there's anything wrong with him per se. It's just sometimes game flow. There are times when it's like Aeneas Williams is getting carries on first down, when it's like those could be Jeremiah Love carries, but you also want to break tendency, right? Teams see him in the game, they think, okay, it's going to be pass. You want to run. So
Yeah. I thought the same thing about Price, because if you go back, he blocked way more in this game
yeah,
than you see like in pass pro. So you saw him block there and like doing some of those ones where maybe they checked to a call, or maybe it was an RPO where they they pulled it instead. So that was, I think, some of it, it had something to do with it. And the other thing is, like, I think they've just decided that they're like, man, we really gotta like lean on. It's pretty obvious Jeremiah Love is just at a really high level, and everyone always complains about like, oh, man, they're gonna need to get Love the ball more. It's like they're featuring him more. Like, they're trying to do it. So, and obviously there's a reason for it. The guy's special. So
he's like the inside running too.
oh my
It's like
god,
it's
he's
like a
so
guy
tough.
like a guy of his stature is like just pushing for 4 or 5 extra yards. Um, it's very impressive. It's very, very impressive.
CFB Perks pointed out too, only 51 snaps, right? So
Yeah, let's put that up. 51 snaps for the first team offense, 10 carries for Leonard, 12 for Love. That's 22 right there, 43. So you're talking about 8 more plays that need to go somewhere. Again, he just gets caught up. I think this is a good question by Sim X Kev. At what point does the Notre Dame has a bad offense narrative stop? Um, to this point, we said it. This is a big thing last year. Their metrics look pretty good from an EPA per play standpoint. They've got pretty good metrics. Their running game is a lot better. I mean, they ran the ball for 4 more touchdowns in this game. Yards per carry is up. I think they were 7th going into the game. They were 7th or 9th. They were definitely top 10 in yards per carry. They were top 10 in rushing touchdowns. Obviously, Ryan Leonard helps that. Do we need to think of it in a different way? Should people, I don't know, maybe not us, but should people think about Notre Dame's offense in a different way now? Has it been efficient enough since Northern Illinois that maybe Notre Dame's just a good football team all around? Especially the Riley Leonard narrative too. Like I'll still get comments about like, oh, he can't throw the ball downfield. It's like
The Riley Leonard stuff it should have stopped weeks ago.
yeah.
Really. Yeah, people need to shut up on that. I think that's it's just totally skewed by how they felt about it's Notre Dame fan PTSD from
Yeah.
all of their years of getting burned. He had one bad game. He wasn't good in that game, and obviously they limited him with what they did in that game. But like the guy has been good ever since. He's been good in every game,
Yeah.
and seems to be getting better.
The
So
offense is the passing game is 100% growing. Like
yes,
they are much better than they were. I mean, much, much better in terms of where they're throwing the ball, the types of throws they're trying to make. I mean, I just, especially on Leonard, but I just think that can Notre Dame's offense win a game for you? I think we got to go to yes at this point, and I think they're going to need to.
yeah, and I think the thing is that I don't know if the people who say that Notre Dame's offense is bad. Those are just the people it's the same thing as saying Riley Leonard is bad. It's like
That's basically it.
It's
Right.
the same people who have the PTSD about whatever, but it's not Notre Dame. I mean, you could say I don't think Notre Dame. It definitely is not. This isn't a CFP level offense.
Yeah.
Like the old CFP, which is a different thing than now. But it's like a top 4 level team that you're like, hey, you're going to actually win a championship. It's not close to a championship level offense. It's not. So I'm totally fine with people just saying that, like, yeah, they got better, but this, whatever. Yes, that's true. Like they're not this. They don't have enough like dominant players and skill players in the passing game, whatever. Yeah, okay. The line isn't good enough. Yeah, sure. But I don't know. Like they put points up, and they've like obviously like have put together drives. They've been more explosive. I would say they're playing like a top 20 offense now, and
Yeah.
when you have a top 3 defense and you have a top 20 offense, I mean, you should win a ton of games, right?
Yeah.
Like you should. So
You can win a lot of games. Yeah.
yeah.
So look, not a championship level offense, but you can have a championship level media company. If you go with VSR Media, founded by Notre Dame football pregame host and Emmy Award-winning anchor Vahid Sadrazadeh, VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo. Whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or aiming to diversify and grow your business, VSR Media specializes in short and long-form video storytelling, social media management, website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshots, senior, and sports photos. Contact them at vsrmediacompany.com. Mention Irish Sports Daily to receive 20% off your first project. Visit them online or give them a call at 574-800-9106. Jason Z asks, how much overlap with Navy and Army how much overlap is there with Navy and Army offense in regards to scheme?
A small bit, but not as much as you think. They just run a much more standard triple option offense. So I mean will do a lot of stuff with motion. They do, they'll one play action, they'll do a lot of that stuff, but it's not the same. It's not the same. Like you're not going to see nearly as much like movement, as much stuff with the passing game. It's just a different thing to prepare for. So yeah, like I mean, not that they'll watch this film of Notre Dame's defense and like pick up, oh, they did this or that, but it's like, I don't think it'll look all that the same of what we see from Notre Dame's defense against Army, because they're just offense just looks a lot different.
Yeah. Coach Hump says Notre Dame's offense won the Texas A&M game, in my opinion. I think this is a situation where you can look at, actually, this is how the defense can win you a playoff game, is because against a round 2 playoff game, because the defense keeps you in the game. If you have 13 points in the fourth quarter, your defense is keeping you in this game, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, I think, and you're tied, the defense is keeping you tied. Then the offense made enough plays to go on and win the game, and then the defense kept doing their thing. Like, that is like the A&M game is exactly the way Notre Dame can
win a playoff game. Yeah.
Win a playoff game against a team like, not like let's say they're playing Alabama or Missouri or Ole Miss or whoever it might be. I don't know. I'm just saying teams. Tennessee, right? Like, that's how they can do it, is that the defense just lets them hang around, and then they make enough plays to win. That's exactly how it can happen, right? Projecting forward, that might be a little bit more difficult in terms of just like going all the way, but in like dreaming big dreams. But in any one game matchup, I can see how the defense can kind of win the game or give the offense a chance to win the game. Envy Irish says, anyone see the crowd last night at the USC game? Woof. Listen, it was a Friday night game. They were 3-4, 4-4 now, but it was never going to be a good crowd. The World Series is going on 6 miles away. I saw that World Series game, by the way, Jamie. Hey-o.
Heck of a game. Heck of a
I
game.
enjoyed that.
I enjoyed it too.
I enjoyed it very much. So and the Lakers were playing at 7:00. Like, we're talking about 3 major sporting events within 6 miles of each other, right? It just, people are not going to choose the USC 3-4 game, 3-4 USC against Rutgers. That's not how it's going to go. Vision Poet asks, were the Navy muff punts the Rendell effect? McElroy made note of the awkward ball spin. I think it was more of a wind thing, personally. The wind was crazy today. I mean, there was like stuff you could see on it was just swirling around. Like they said, swirling winds. 100%. It was very, very strange. It was a very strange wind kind of day. So that was kind of interesting. Joel Easton says, hot take, I want to see Minchie take those Angeli snaps at the end of the game. It would be interesting to see Minchie get some of those snaps, especially the second drive, but I don't know. It doesn't really bother me that much. Final thoughts, Jamie. Nice Notre Dame win, right? A ranked team, you win by 37. You got to take a lot of good from it. I think this is a great game going into the bye for Notre Dame. Hopefully they can get a little bit more healthy and move on. Final thought from you.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't sweat the whole game. They never had to sweat the whole game. I think anytime you get that in a situation where you know that Navy's dangerous, they're a dangerous team, but you never have to. You basically are up 2 scores, but like just right at the beginning of the game, it just was set up in a way where that's exactly how you kind of want it to be set up, and they never let it get to the to a point like where it even was remotely in danger the whole game. And even you could say like they had a ton of like yards per play in the first half, but like they really didn't they didn't come out in the second half and like do better, even though they scored. Like they got help on that one drive, and they couldn't manufacture those explosive plays after that, right? Like they didn't have those explosive plays after. So I thought it was one of those things where I always felt it's a rare thing. Other than the Purdue game, was there ever a game where you thought like every time Notre Dame touched the ball, you're like, yeah, they're probably going to score.
Yeah.
Like they're probably getting a touchdown. And that's how the game felt the whole time. And like right away, it didn't feel like, oh, they really like, that was a great script that got them a touchdown on that first drive. You were like, no, like I kind of think like they were just going to score the whole time. Like,
Yeah.
So I don't know much more you can ask for in a game. Like, it is one of those games, like, no Notre Dame fan should walk away unpleased with what you saw. And I think going into the bye week, I love how it was spread out with the bye weeks this year. That really worked out well. So, they'll get a little bit healthier going into Florida State. They're going to be obviously, Florida State sucks. We all know it. But it seems like it doesn't matter what that team is going to present. Like, Notre Dame seems to have a good focus now. So, a lot to look forward to in these last 4 games for Notre Dame. Like, they're set up well to finish up strong, go to 11-1.
Yep, they look good, and they're getting better as well. So we'll end it there. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you like what you heard today, please hit the like, please hit subscribe, please hit the notification bell so whenever it is, we're going to go live. I'll be back tomorrow morning with the Morning After Recap show talking about the game, and after I watch the game back and you all watch the game back, and have a good evening. So we'll talk to you in the morning. Notre Dame 51, Navy 14. Great win for Notre Dame. So we'll talk to you tomorrow. Keep hitting and hustling.